So ultimately, this was really an experiment, right? So this was the veneer cutting out this piece as a single setup, and then cutting out this negative as a single setup as a clamping caul or jig. Um, then taking the veneer once this piece was, they were both cut out, and gluing it, and then clamping this guy on here like this. And so this is the one I just did. It required a couple setups, but only one piece. So cut one side, and then I just cut this other side. I think my preference at this point is to go with the full machining route for a couple of reasons. One, the bow on this is pretty significant. In other words, because it was so fragile without the skin here, it bowed pretty significantly. Part of that bowing is because of the grains in really the wrong direction. Really, we should be running the grain the opposite way to offer some more rigidity. Using the grain in in your favor, so that it won't essentially bow up. You can see the bow is pretty significant. A little bit of bow here and a lot of bow here. So that's totally not workable. In contrast, even though the grain is unfavorable for this piece as well, the bow is significantly less out of the gates. There's a little bit of bow here, but I think it's much better at the very least. The other thing I don't really like about this one is that there is some puckering here on the edge. The glue edge is, not bad, but it's there is, you could probably sand out, so there I can see it. I can see it, but I don't know if the camera can see it. Maybe there, a little bit of puckering that's to be expected for getting this to go in unnatural compound curved ways. There's probably one little spot. Yeah, this a little bit of a little bit of bump right there in terms of the glue. So there's a structural integrity to this because it's one integral piece. Also, I actually like the machining patterns contrasted with the grain of the wood. I think what I'll do is sand this side to make it a little thinner so that the light coming through is a little stronger, but then it'll be a reveal too. So when you come up to the piece, this will be all smooth, and there'll be a bunch of these all around, creating a larger, more complex surface. And then it'll be smooth to the touch with the wiring and all that stuff, the copper tape. But then when the light shows, it'll reveal some of the machining marks juxtaposed against the wood grain. I think that'll be a nice reveal. In terms of the light coming through, that's pretty cool. So that's the veneer. My camera's struggling a little bit because it's adjusting. So it's not really going to be a super scientific test here. That's definitely less. But I'll sand it down a little bit to get a little better light response. The veneer required some significant sanding too to get that paper off of it. Kind of a pain. I'm sure I could get veneer without paper on it. The paper's good to maintain the integrity. Well, there's the veneer right there. That's actually the paper. You can't even see the wood's on the other side. So that requires sanding in any case, at least for this kind of veneer. And then I can sand this to taste, so to speak, to get the lighting effect I want. So that's all to say that I'm leaning towards, just in terms of the amount of work involved in each of these strategies. The work here, although I had to bone up on registering in order to flip the piece. This one requires its own care in making sure that these two separate pieces being made will eventually align. And then it also requires more wood, because this is essentially the twice the amount of wood for this approach, because these are two separate pieces, whereas this is one piece, and still requires a couple of setups, but doesn't require the glue up, which takes a fair amount of time. This is like once it's cut out, it's done, it's ready to go. So adding all this stuff up, if I can sand this out and get the lighting close to whatever to the lighting effect that this is getting, the translucency level, I think this is the clear winner.